Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this very special edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. We are going to focus on the News 18 Pulse survey that we've conducted here on the News 18 network. And in this edition, the focus will be on India's verdict on Canada at the moment. What's the public sentiment all across Bharat? We will talk about it in detail, ladies and gentlemen. Amid Bharat's diplomatic row with Canada, the Trudeau government has provoked yet again. The Canadian authorities have refused to share the death certificate of Khalistani terrorist and wanted individual Hardeep Nijjar with the National Investigation Agency. First, Canada claims that Bharat was involved in the terrorist killing. And then Canada names Bharat's envoy as a person of interest. Then Canada states that there is no evidentiary proof of Bharat's involvement, and now Canada refuses to share Nijjar's death certificate. Canada has been shouting of Bharat's involvement, and Canada has claimed that Bharat is not cooperating. But this is a clear proof of who is trying to hide the truth. Is it not, ladies and gentlemen? Speaking out, the recalled envoy Sanjay Kumar Verma, he's spoken with CNN News 18, has torn into the Trudeau establishment and also Justin Trudeau's soft spot for K extremism, K goons, and this entire lot of Khalistanis. 24 Liberal MPs have already sought Justin Trudeau's resignation out of 140. But the Prime Minister is adamant that he will stay on. Facing the worst embarrassment domestically and on the global stage, Justin Trudeau is adding to his woes with claims, counters, and defiance. What does Bharat think of the Canada spat? The Right Stand gets you an exclusive and exhaustive News 18 Network Pulse survey on Bharat's verdict. It's a survey on what people feel about Bharat-Canada relations. Bharat's biggest network gauges the public mood all across the country, and over the next few minutes, we will show you 8 questions that reveal Bharat's views on Bharat's clash with Canada. Is there a shift in sentiment about how people perceived Canada just a few months ago and how things have changed now? The first 4 responses were put out here on the News 18 network on Friday in the afternoon. We will now, here on this edition of The Right Stand, bring you responses of the next 4 questions. But first, let's try and just recapture all that we have shared with our viewers through the course of the day so far. Let's start with the methodology. How was the survey conducted and what were the filters or cautions that were used? The responses were collected through personal interviews with the aid of an online questionnaire. The survey responses were collected extensively using News 18's network of reporters and stringers spread across the country. The survey on public sentiment regarding India-Canada relations was conducted across multiple Indian states. The survey captured a total of 4,254 responses. After an initial review, responses were filtered to ensure quality and relevance, resulting in the final data set of 2,436 retained responses, with 1,818 responses filtered out. The survey was conducted between the 21st and the 23rd of October. The filtering involved removing incomplete and inconsistent responses and removing the responses of those who indicated that they were unaware of the current diplomatic standoff between Bharat and Canada. Additionally, responses from individuals who said they had no knowledge of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau were also skipped to maintain the overall integrity of the data. Age-based and regional distributions have also been considered to ensure a diverse and representative sample. Responses also focused on states like Punjab and Gujarat, which have large expatriate populations over in Canada. Respondents showing a big thumbs up to the Modi Sarkar overall. Respondents were asked on how they regarded Canada as a nation. That was the first question. So let's take you through the 4 questions. Question number 1. How do you regard Canada as a country? Friendly, 33%, but the 67% of the respondents were in the unfriendly or don't know how Canada is and what Canada's nature is towards Bharat. That's where they were in that zone. So only 1/3 of the overall respondents believe Canada is a friendly nation. Asked on Bharat's decision to expel Canadian diplomats, a huge 86% of the respondents said they agree and stand with Bharat's position to send out or expel Canadian diplomats. Only 7% said no, and another 7% did not have an opinion. But a majority, overwhelming number, 86%, agree with Bharat's decision to expel Canadian diplomats. Then, the next question that respondents were asked, if Canada is turning a blind eye to Khalistani extremists, 82% of the respondents said yes, 7% said no. Justin Trudeau claimed Bharat was not cooperating in the investigation into Nijjar's killing, and Bharat said that Canada is not providing any proof. Respondent gave a thumbs up to Bharat. On being asked, who did they believe? Whose version did they believe? 96% of the respondents believed Bharat. An overwhelming number. Only 4% said they are inclined to think and trust Canada on this. Let's try and understand. So now, these are the 4 questions that we have shown to you so far. Let's try and look at the next question. The big question, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 5. Is Justin Trudeau solely responsible for damaging ties with Bharat? 78% of the respondents say yes. 9% say no. And there are 13% who do not wish to offer an opinion. They are neither sure, neither yes nor no there. But 78% blame Justin Trudeau solely for damaging ties with Bharat. So the first 5 questions, we'll get you questions 6, 7 and 8 through the course of this broadcast in a bit. Professor Brahmachalani, who was there earlier in the day with us when we put out this survey and the first 4 questions, is back with us here on the right stand, strategic affairs expert. Dean Baxendale, Canadian journalist with us, Terry Milewski, author with us, and Vivek Wadhwa, entrepreneur with us. Namaste, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Professor Brahmachalani, we've had a conversation. I'm just going to go across to some of our other guests before I come back to you because you shared your thoughts on the initial 4 questions. Vivek Wadhwa, if I may start with you. Many would argue, or they would say, that the News 18 Pulse survey has been conducted among Bharatiya. So obviously, majority should take Bharat's position. But oftentimes in the past, there have been different opinions on Bharat's position and Bharat's overall approach to a particular diplomatic problem or issue. Do you agree? Are you inclined to agree with the respondents thus far?
You have to realize that people like me who come to America or Canada, we become Americans or Canadians. I don't generally favor the Indian government. I'm critical about it when they do the wrong things. Here also in the United States, in Silicon Valley and other parts of America, Indians are exactly the same as the Indians in Canada are. That they're shocked, they're disgusted by the extreme left-wing behavior of Trudeau. And it's clear as could be that he's trying to cover up the scandal about China buying off and supporting his politicians. So he's trying to cover up the Chinese issue by blaming India. And the trouble is it's not working because the majority of the people, immigrants to Canada and the United States do not support the Khalistanis. It's a small minority of the Khalistanis who are doing it. Here, even in Silicon Valley, we have 2 Gurdwaras. The big Gurdwara is the San Jose Gurdwara. The small Gurdwara is the Fremont Gurdwara. You go to the Fremont Gurdwara, it's little Khalistan. You go to San Jose and they just kicked out the Khalistanis because the majority of Hindus and Sikhs do not support Khalistan. So yes, I think your survey is very accurate. It's representative of what the people think.
Dean, given what's happening back in Canada, Sanjay Kumar Verma, the recalled ambassador, said that this number of Khalistanis is of just about 10,000. They're concentrated around that Surrey region in Surrey Gurdwara. But the fact is that they've embedded themselves within administration and polity. And that's why they're able to shout out the loudest, although they don't represent the majority sentiment of Indo-Canadians. Would you agree, disagree? And your response to this survey, how much would you blame Justin Trudeau for bungling things up between Bharat and Canada?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Actually, I'm in Europe today. I'm in Sarajevo, attending a World Uyghur Congress, and I can tell you about transnational repression operations by various governments, including the Chinese Communist Party. But also, that also extends out to India as well. The problem, though, here in Canada is that we've ignored what's been going on with respect to the Khalistani funding for terrorist actions back in India. We've been aware of them, and it's now come to this particular point. However, the Indian government, if the RCMP's information is accurate and there are charges laid, there are ties directly to the Indian government that have been involved with this murder. Having once again said all of that, this is ultimately a deflection for Justin Trudeau on the issue of him being adjacent to Beijing and his MPs directly through funding, through a malign state operation by the Chinese Communist Party, to which we published on Willful Blindness, the third edition, which is just coming out today. And we'll hold a press conference in Ottawa on that. So yes, we've got a bloody mess here. We need to get back with our friends from India, and we need to find a diplomatic way in which to do so. It's not going to happen through Justin Trudeau, that is for sure. And Terry Molesky can speak to this in a much more informed way because he's been following this issue for many, many years.
True, and still 1/3 of the respondents believe Canada to be a friendly nation. Another 34% are still on the fence. They don't know which way is Canada moving. So a lot of them, of our respondents...
That's good. We have something to work with.
Yeah, I think, no, not just that. I think there is a clear differentiation between how the Trudeau administration has spoken and behaved with Bharat and Bharatiya, and how the general Canada population is. But there is a sentiment that which is increasingly getting negative, and it's palpable, Terry, because Canada is a preferred destination for education. Canada was a preferred destination for those looking to emigrate or look at career prospects. So all of that could suffer a bit of a dent, and especially if there are going to be immigration curbs on the anvil, and there is rumor and talk that there could be a huge targeting of Indo-Canadians in Canada and their visas may not be renewed, or they may be asked, they may be sent back. We don't know how things will pan out. But the other aspect is this is on the day we speak, Anmol Bishnoi, part of the Bishnoi gang, Bishnoi Goldie Brar gang, and Lawrence Bishnoi's brother, has been added to the most wanted list here in India, whereas a Goldie Brar has been taken off the RCMP's list as most wanted. Terry.
This is an interesting development, but we can't really explain it until we know more about what precisely the evidence is that the RCMP is working with, and we don't have those details. I agree with you that the fact that 1/3 of the respondents in your survey still consider Canada a friendly country, as many as consider it unfriendly, this does present some hope, I agree, for the future, that there's something to work with. But there is a gap here. The questions being asked in this survey, do you blame Trudeau for damaging ties with India? Yes. The Indian respondents to this survey says yes, they agree with their government about this after a year of their government telling them that this is the case and they believe it. This is not a shock. This is not a surprise. But if you imagine if you were to ask the question, if we were to kill an enemy of India in Canada, a Canadian citizen, wouldn't that damage ties? Well, yeah, if you ask the question that way, you would probably find that would have something to do with ties being damaged, now wouldn't you? So I think that's blindingly obvious, and so far in what you've reported of the poll, I see something missing, really. I see missing the element of who's to blame element here in the reported results falls overwhelmingly
the fourth question.
upon
The fourth question
Canada.
that we asked is that there are two versions. Canada says that it was India that was involved in the Niger killing, and Bharat has said that give us credible proof or evidence and we will push it. Whose version are you willing to believe? 96% are willing to believe Bharat's version. They are unwilling to believe Canada's claims on credible allegations. They're saying, where is the proof? Give us the proof. Now, I'll tell you one thing, Terry, and Professor Brahmachalani will back me up on this. There have been cases in the past where Bharat has been asked, or there has been an alignment or an involvement of an Indian individual on activities on foreign soil. Sentiments have been quite mixed. And they've been, Bharat, the government's version has been taken with a pinch of salt by the people. But in this case, there doesn't seem to be any doubts. Professor Brahmachalani, would you want to take on or respond to Terry's point of view?
Well, there are two things. First, Canada and India are two major democracies. They should have very good relations, as they've had in the past. So it's very unfortunate that the relations have deteriorated to the extent that their diplomatic ties now stand downgraded to a considerable extent, to the extent that it's not possible for either Canada or India to pursue their normal diplomatic relations through their missions in each other's capital. For example, in New Delhi as well as in Ottawa, only middle or junior level diplomats are left in the respective high commissions. So the question that really arises is, how can the two countries repair the damage to their ties? This question, I'm afraid, is going to weigh on the relationship even after Justin Trudeau is out of office. Justin Trudeau is going to be out of office in the coming months, even earlier, maybe by the end of this year, because he's under pressure not to resign. But the next government in Ottawa will have to deal with the same issues. The fact is that Canada has become the international epicenter of the Khalistan militant movement, that Ottawa has willfully turned a blind eye to India's red lines on separatism and terrorism, that elements based in Canada are openly making terrorist threats against India, including against Indian carriers like Air India. And I think those issues are going to weigh down the relationship much after Trudeau is out of office.
Right.
And if there is indeed a majority, if I may, just very quickly,
yes,
if there is indeed a majority of Indians who replied, I haven't seen the results yet, but if they do agree that it's okay for India to kill a Canadian citizen in Canada, if they consider that he's an enemy and the host government, in this case Canada, not doing enough to stop him, if that's the case, then that's going to damage ties going forward. That's a dangerous development.
But in this case, the fact is there is no proof that it's been done. So much so that the RCMP has even refused to share Hardeep Nijjar's death certificate with the National Investigation Agency.
Well, I don't believe that Canada has not shared.
No, they haven't. They haven't. That's the news update. That's the latest update that I have, that the NIA, the RCMP has refused to share. Canadian authorities have refused to share Hardeep Nijjar's death certificate with the National Investigation Agency.
That particular item you may be correct, but in general, I do not believe Indian protestations that Canada has failed to produce evidence.
No, but
don't believe it.
Yeah, you will not believe it. But Terry, the fact is that India has to officially admit or agree. There has to be proof for us to admit that there has to be that we are involved. Our position is that we are not involved. These are non-state actors who are involved there, and it's an internecine gang rivalry that's happened. And we believe that these are ISI-driven entities who have wanted to finish Nijjar because he had become a liability. Now, if you believe that this is Indian authorities, then show us the proof, is what we are saying. So there is no grounds to go and ask somebody, is it okay for us to go and kill somebody on foreign soil? The fact is, Terry, people, if you were to ask this question among Bharatiya, they will turn around and say, first account for Dawood Ibrahim, Hafiz Saeed and Rauf Asghar and Masood Azhar. So, because they have done far greater harm, literally, and then account for David Coleman Headley and Tahabur Rana, etc., etc. My point is that this guy, Gurpatwant Panun, is an extremist, yes. But he's being propped up by the Five Eyes nations. He's not being propped up, and he's not active in Bharat. He's not come here to our country. He won't dare to step foot here. He's doing everything sitting outside. So the Five Eyes are allowing him to do this. If he was indeed a Sikh nationalist, he should at least put the proper map of Punjab. He does not even have the proper map of Punjab. All he has is parts of Bharat. But the actual Punjab is a different one. It has Nankana Sahib, it has Lahore as its capital. He's not got all of that. So that itself shows what kind of narrative he is peddling. But we are digressing. Just quickly taking the next two questions, questions number 6 and 7 here, back to back on the News 18 Pulse survey. India says Justin Trudeau is talking about Khalitani extremists because of vote bank politics. 81% agree with this point of view, that he is doing it purely for vote bank politics. 6% disagree, and about 13% have no opinion to offer. We'll also take the next question. Question number 7. The next question is part of the 8-question survey. Do you support the Modi government's handling of the Canada problem? 81% of the respondents support the Modi government on the handling of the Canada problem. 9% believe no, we don't support. And then there is, of course, a 10% which does not have an opinion to offer because they are overall, not very. They don't have a strong opinion about it. Let's go back to our guests and understand from Vivek Wadhwa. Vivek Wadhwa, are you okay with the way the government has handled
I think that I would be part of that 9% because I think that the Modi government has been too timid about it. They should highlight the fact that America has been killing terrorists all across the world without impunity. They're supporting Israel in doing it. Here, we know that these people have supported people who bombed an airline and killed hundreds of people. All right. Why is India being embarrassed about standing up and speaking up and labeling Canada a global sponsor of terrorism? India should be a lot more aggressive. That one interview that the Indian ambassador did recently got worldwide coverage, and it helped public opinion. That was the first time I've seen the Indian government doing something like that, of playing the PR game that Trudeau is playing. Trudeau is playing a PR game. He gave the Washington Post all this information before they even disclosed it to the Indian government. That's because he was trying to get the attention of Washington, D.C. India needs to do more of this. It needs to just express its opinion and not act, as timidly or as embarrassed. The fact is that we're dealing with terrorists. The fact is that we're dealing with gangsters and elements that we don't want in any country. India should just say that as clearly as could be and not be embarrassed, not be on the defensive and playing the game the way it's being played right now. So I'm in that 9%.
You're with the 9% saying that the Indian government is perhaps too timid, and they are tending to respond to Canada in the diplomatic escalation ladder rather than go 3 steps up and then knock Canada back down.
Exactly. No one believes Justin Trudeau here. I mean, he has zero credibility even in Canada, even amongst his supporters. I was just there last week, and the fact is that he has almost no support. People can see through the games he's playing. This is all politics right now.
Terry?
I would just say that it's a little bit much, with great respect, to say that Canada is supporting the terrorists who blew up Air India. Canada spent 20 years and many hundreds of millions of dollars to prosecute them. One of them did go to jail for most of his life, most of the last 30 years, in fact. The bomb maker did. And the other 2, unfortunately, were acquitted. I have a lot of criticisms about that court process. I just wanted to mention that we did not support those terrorists as a country.
But you are supporting those terrorists. Terry, you can sugarcoat it as much as you want to. Canada is supporting terrorists. It's as clear as could be. Imagine if Osama bin Laden was hanging out in Canada. How the America would have reacted to it. We wouldn't have been nice about it. We would have gone and knocked him off without hesitation. This is what the situation in Canada is right now.
So we should have gone and assassinated the Air India bombers, is that it?
Well, not assassinated them, called out the Canadian government repeatedly in every international forum for harboring the terrorists and not doing anything about it. I think we should let Burma speak on it. I've seen his tweets on it, and he has been highlighting the irony, the cynicism, the dishonesty of the Canadian government.
Not just the dishonesty of the Canadian government, but the Americans too. They are the ones who provided this intel to Justin Trudeau to act on it. He went and said federal agencies have given this, and he went and blurted it out in the British in the Canadian Parliament. Brahmachalani?
And in America, by the way, in America, Indian Americans are also seeing very clearly that the Biden administration is blindly supporting Trudeau, and Biden is losing a lot of support amongst Indian Americans for doing this. So there's another dynamic at play over here, that even here we can see very clearly that they're sucking up to the Canadian government. It's left wing to left wing. And this is pushing a lot of people to the right. This is why Trump may well get elected, because people are fed up of this extreme left wing politics in both countries.
Well, it was a conservative Canadian Prime Minister. It was a conservative Canadian Prime Minister who went after Manmohan Singh and told him that no, we have freedom of speech in Canada, and we're not supporting terrorists by letting them have freedom of peaceful speech.
Yeah, but the irony
freedom of
is,
speech doesn't include terror threats. I mean, this is happening in the United States also, and freedom of speech has its limits. That in Canada, if you started now saying death to Trudeau, you'd be picked up by the RCMP pretty fast.
And I've been arguing your side of this question for years.
All right, gentlemen, I'm just going to bring in Brahmachalani and then Dean. Both of them have been itching to make their comments. So yes, Professor Brahmachalani.
First on the Air India bombing. It took Canada 21 years to set up a commission of inquiry. Two separate Canadian inquiries found Talvinder Parmar to be the mastermind of that bombing. Was Parmar brought to justice? No. He was eventually killed by Indian police when he sneaked into Indian Punjab from Pakistan. In fact, according to Canadian media, the Canadian spy agency CSIS, through its mole in the Khalistan terrorist cell in Canada, knew of the plan to bomb Air India Flight 182, but took no action to stop that terrorist attack. Instead, just days before that deadly bombing, the CSIS asked its mole to pull out so he wouldn't be implicated. That is Canada's culpability. I think the problem lies largely with India, that it let Canada off the hook over that deadly bombing. And that successive Indian governments exerted no sustained pressure on Canada to clean up its act. That's the reason why history is repeating itself. And this is the reason why today Canada has become the global hub of these Khalistani terrorists, separatists, and extremists. And the reason why they're so powerful in Canada is that they have captured the Gurdwaras. By capturing the Gurdwaras, they have a control over the cash flow. The Gurdwaras are a cash cow in the Sikh diaspora. So by controlling the Gurdwaras, they're able to control the cash, they're able to funnel funds to politicians, they're able to have an outsized role in Canadian politics, while Trudeau and company have encouraged them, for whatever reason, encouraged them to take on India. And the US in turn has encouraged Trudeau to take on India. So we have a game, international and a domestic game being played, which really is rupturing the Canada-India relationship.
He's got federal bodyguards who are on camera giving him protection when he goes to UK, when he goes to Canada, and when he goes to Australia. Gurpatwant Pannu. The other aspect, what's happening in Surrey is also happening in Southall in the UK. And it's brazenly happening. And against the tenets of Sikhi, where beyond the 10 Gurus and Guru Granth Sahib, you're not supposed to feature, highlight or worship anybody or put anybody on a pedestal inside a Gurdwara. Bhindran wale and guns are being put there, and devotees who go inside are forced to bow there and also pay donation. And this entire Khalistan messaging is being brazenly put across these Gurdwaras. Religious places are being used for extremism and separatist politics. Brazenly being done. Dean, you have not spoken. I've got the big question, sir. I'm running on a clock, so I'm just going to put out this question, and this is what Terry wanted the answer to. Do you think, will you ask this question, are people okay if Bharat takes matters into its own hands? Do you think India has the right to eliminate terrorists if foreign governments do not cooperate? Let's look at the answer. 81% of the respondents say yes, we are okay. Don't just say ghus ke marenge. That means we'll go in and get them. Go and get them. That's what 81% of the respondents say. If other governments do not cooperate, those who are a threat to Bharat's sovereignty and Bharat's integrity, they should be accounted for, and we must. Everybody says if Mossad can, if Israel can, why can't Bharat? If America can, why can't Bharat? If China can, why can't Bharat? This is the sentiment that we've got. Disagree 7%. Not sure. Sitting on the fence on this one, 12%. Dean.
Yes. Are we still a democracy in India? Are we moving back to the Wild West, where we allow vigilantes to take out people that they disagree with? The reality is that we do have a rule of law. We do have a process. If India wishes to have these people brought back to justice, go through the court of law, making an extradition request without actually going to court to prove it is a whole separate matter. But we are at the point where transnational organized crime groups who are being coveted and are working with India, China, Russia, Iran, they are eliminating people on Canadian soil and in other jurisdictions. This is not where the world needs to be, and we need to dial this down. So that's my answer to the question.
But would you want to? Well, yes, Anand, Professor Brahmacharya, please go ahead.
Every time the United States has carried out an extraterritorial assassination in recent years, Trudeau has taken to Twitter to applaud the American action. He's a cheerleader of American extraterritorial assassination. Look at the irony of it, that the US is the big daddy of extraterritorial assassinations, a world record holder in killing people in other countries without any kind of judicial scrutiny of any kind. And they are preaching to India. That's the reason why there is bipartisan support in India today behind the government's position vis-a-vis Canada and vis-a-vis the United States. Normally, India is a very divisive country. The opposition is never with the government. But you see today, the opposition is not questioning the government's actions against Canada or the government's moves with the US, because there is anger in India over what Canada has done.
And successive governments have faced the same thing, quite rich, coming from a Justin Trudeau establishment or someone who's sitting there and lauding Ismail Haniyeh being neutralized, Saifuddin being neutralized. Where are the weapons of mass destruction after an entire Iraq was neutralized or flattened out? Vivek Wadhwa, these are nations who are turning around and saying, you can't do it. You don't dare to.
I know, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is a colonial
So
attitude.
America is not a
It
democracy,
persists over
Israel
here.
is not a democracy, Canada is not a democracy. But Bharat is a democracy and they shouldn't do it. Vivek.
But which is it? Which is the argument that India is making? Is it arguing that...
No, you asked this question that are Indians, average Indians okay that India takes matters into its own hands? Average Indians say that if a Mossad can do it, if an Israel can do it, if an America can do it, if a China can do it, then you should also do. And that too when governments don't cooperate, sir. 26 letter rogatories. All these people who are thriving in Canada are wanted gangsters, criminals, terrorists with letter rogatories and Interpol notices, red corner notices against them. How did Canada give them citizenship? With what intent? Is that not a fair question to ask? Vivek Wadhwa and then Terry. Terry, one.
Perfectly fair question.
I think that's as clear as could be that we are dealing with colonial attitudes, we're dealing with racism. It's a matter of looking down at India. The fact is that America can do it, Israel can do it, everyone here would cheer it. Americans cheered the assassination of Osama bin Laden the same way Indians would cheer the assassination of these terrorists. So it's double standards, and I completely 100% agree with Brahma on this one, that this is unacceptable.
You might find the same answer in Canada.
Yeah, but where are the Canadian separatists? We've got separatists who are acting against India on Canadian soil. Israel has a problem because Hezbollah cadre, Hamas cadre, Houthi cadre are all active in Canada on Canadian soil. Sri Lanka has a problem because LTTE elements are operating on Canadian soil. Terry.
Forgive me, I'm just confused about whether India is arguing today, in the case of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, whether A, we didn't do it, or B, everybody does it, so it's okay.
No, India's argument is very clear. If Canada refuses to cooperate, then Indians are saying our government should take matters into their own hands, Terry. That's what the people of India are saying. Where is the cooperation from the Canadian authorities? Where is the cooperation? No, where is the cooperation from successive polities or political groupings of the Canadian authorities? From Kanishk bombing downwards, you have chronicled it yourself. Conservatives or liberals, where have they helped Bharat to fight extremism?
Well, they've done a lousy job of that, and that's why I've been extremely critical of them. You're quite correct over the years. I was saying that in this present situation, if we're all going to agree that let's go kill them, let's go get them, and the hell with the law, then you may not wish to live in the world that you've created. Because
will you say the same thing to America? Will you say the same? No. Will you say the same thing to America when they bombed Kabul and killed Ayman al-Zawahiri and President Biden stood there, told the whole world, wherever you are, whoever you are, we will search you, we'll find you, we'll kill you if you're an enemy of America. And everybody said, yay, well done, Biden, well done, America. But the same thing when Bharat says, wherever you are, whoever you are, we need to bring these agents of enemies of Bharat to justice in Bharatiya courts. For 26 letter rogatories go ignored. For 4 decades you do nothing about it. And today you're saying, oh, you're a democracy. You got to say, what about the rule of law? That's what Professor Brahmachalani said. That's a hypocritical position.
I would like to know what exact terrorist offences Nijjar committed. I would like to know that. I would like to know which terrorist offences exactly.
Did
Hardeep Singh
Hardeep Nijjar have a red corner notice against him or not? What is the international convention when an individual has red corner notice? So are you supposed to give such a person citizenship, or are you supposed to hand him over to the Interpol?
I think the fact that he got Canadian citizenship is an absolute scandal.
In Punjab. You know,
And,
Kerry is asking.
and he's involved in conducting criminal activities in Punjab. He held an AK-47 and conducted a training session in the hills in Canada. That, as per the rules of Canada, Canadian law.
That's not him.
This
That's
is
not him.
Hardeep
That
Nijjar,
picture
sir.
is incorrect.
That
picture is incorrect.
Sir, this is Hardeep Nijjar.
Yes,
That is, yes.
Anand,
But
the
that
real issue
picture
is this.
is not. That's not him. That's not a picture of
Anand-
Nijjar.
Sir, it
It's a
is a
mistake.
confirmed picture of Hardeep Nijjar that has been handed
That
over to the
is.
Canadian authorities too.
That one is, and the second one is not. This
sir,
one is
the
not.
Canadian authority, sir, the Canadian authorities have confirmed that this is the intel authorities
This
too
is, yes,
have confirmed
but
to
the other
us
picture is
that it is
not.
Hardeep Nijjar. My point is, sir, Goldie Brar is there. He's off the RCMP list. He's there. Arsh Dalla is there. He's getting protection and warnings by the CSIS and the RCMP. So what do we say now? What do we do?
The real issue, Anand,
All
is
right.
that, as the Indian High Commissioner, Sanjay Verma has put it, he
Yeah.
said Khalistani terrorists and extremists in Canada are the deep assets of Canadian intelligence agency, CSIS. It's the Canadian deep state, the unaccountable intelligence agency, CSIS. The CSIS has always been an agency totally unaccountable, which has developed these links with these Khalistanis, including with Nijjar.
Sir,
Nijjar was being groomed. It was being cultivated by the CSIS, according to the Vancouver Sun newspaper, that in the months before Nijjar was killed, quoting his own son, Nijjar's son, the newspaper reported that in the months before he was killed, CSIS officers were meeting Nijjar once or twice a week.
Yes, yes. Balraj Nijjar is on record. My point is, sir, that if there are other nations, some nations have the right to go ahead and chest thump about invading into someone's sovereignty, destroying that nation altogether and saying we did it for the greater good. Other nations do it quietly and then remain in the realm of plausible deniability. Nations like Bharat are supposed to are okay to be held to account by all and sundry. Now, I don't think that is kosher for everyone in Bharat. People are saying, take the right stand, go ahead and defend your country wherever it is. And whoever is a threat to our country, our integrity, our sovereignty and our peace, we must go after them. If governments don't cooperate, the respondents are saying, Bharat should take action. Thank you, gentlemen. I've got to wind up. Thank you. We've run over time. Thank you so much. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, we share with you some of the big takeaways of the News 18 Pulse survey. Stay with us.